It's been, well, far too long since my last confession. Too long since I've even been in church. Probably that way for a lot of people. I guess that's why this is happening. God has turned his back on the world. He's shunned us. And now even when we die, he doesn't want us. And we're sent back to Earth to feed on the living. But if this is the end, I want to be forgiven. I pray I'm not too late. Forgive me, Father. Give me absolution and show me the way. Please, Father. Father?
Welcome, Horror Fiends! Welcome back to Horror Fiend TV, a very special edition of Three Corners of Horror. I am Ricky Grimes, and we got a very special guest today. We got Charles Rosenay. Thank you for coming on the show. How are you doing today?
I am great. It's such an honor to be on the same show as Ricardo Montalban.
The plane! Awesome. Thank you, man, once again. And we got JR. How you doing, brother?
Hey, it's Charles. It's my boy. Been dying to talk to him, especially after writing this book. Man, can't wait, man. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
We also got, of course, the man with the plan. What up, Joe? How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be different than what we do. So it's going to be nice to actually have somebody else, get involved with our little craziness.
Yeah, something a little different here. Before we get started, please, guys, like, subscribe, share this video. Please get the word out. We would greatly appreciate it. Now, let's get started. Now, Charles, I've been reading through this book of yours, man. And I got to say, I learned a lot of stuff here. You are a man of many talents. Let me say that. You are, actor, DJ, author. You also do organized themed tours, conventions.
Yeah.
I
stay busy.
Awesome. Now, I want to ask you, what do you enjoy? First of all, two parts. What do you enjoy doing more? And which path led you to this obsession with horror?
Wow. So I enjoy anything that brings other people joy. If I can be in front of a crowd hosting, a convention or leading a tour or DJing and emceeing a party, that brings, giving other people pleasure gives me a lot of pleasure. So there's nothing greater than that. What got me to horror and got me to be in the four corners of horror
is the fourth corner.
My mom, she forced me, and literally forced me to watch Bride of Frankenstein when I was a kid. And, you watch it now and it's no big deal. But, in those days, those movies were really, they were I couldn't watch it the first night. It was something called the $1 Million Movie. I love telling the story because in those days you couldn't stream. Forget DVDs or videos, no Netflix, no channels where you could just watch what you want on demand. Guys, our Bible was the TV guide, and we would open a TV guide and hope that there was a movie for us to see. So she wanted me to see Frankenstein. She said, that's the way to Christian you. I got to get you to see Frankenstein. Wasn't on, but Bride of Frankenstein on. And it was on the $1 Million Movie. I grew up in the Bronx, and we had the three networks and then three other channels. And one of them was Channel 9 WOR. And every night, the $1 Million Movie would show the same movie for a whole week. So whether it was Gone with the Wind or Mutiny on the Bounty or whatever it was the Monday through Friday. And the first night she had me sit through it. Now, I'm someone who doesn't go to bed early. You can't force me as a kid to go to sleep before midnight. I was in bed from the first note of the movie. And what can you compare it to nowadays? I don't know, Halloween, Exorcist, Quiet Place. I don't know what would have done it to a different generation, but it scared the pants off me to the point that I was in bed. I wasn't going to watch it. That's it. I don't need to see horror. I'll stick with cartoons. The next night, Mom was smart. She warmed up the milk. She put on the blanket. She made popcorn. She said, just sit, see if you can get into, if you get into it, you'll like it. And I kind of watched it like this, a little. But most of the time my eyes were closed. By the third night, it was getting into the head. So even though I hadn't watched it, some of the lines I was repeating before they came out, you know how you get to know a movie?
Yeah.
Fourth night, I watched it completely. And then that Thursday night, I'm a kid. I don't know how to tell time. I did not stop saying, Mom, when's it on? When's it on? When's it on? Because I couldn't wait to see it. I was hooked to the point that TV Guide was the go-to. We'd have to look any Boris Karloff, any Bela Lugosi, any Lon Chaney. I would circle it, and that's what I was living my life around. You know, as a big guy in music, you know, I produce the Beatle conventions and Beatle festivals and do tours to Liverpool for Beatle fans. I always said that seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan was my first memory in life, but I really think that seeing Bride of Frankenstein with my mom might have been my first memory in life, but it was still the most effective because it got me to be into the horror mode.
I got a question too, because now when I read the introduction of your book, there was something you said, like a quote that I got to tell you, to this day I think it still resonates. You had said that, you know, how you watch horror movies at 9 out of 10 weren't that good, but it was worth sitting through the junks to find the gems.
That's so
I mean,
true.
do you still
guys
think
agree
it's
with
like
that?
that to this day? Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, because I don't mind the 9 crappy ones.
Yeah.
They all have, you know, an element of it's worth watching, even how bad it was. I don't mind a bad horror movie, but I'm saying that to the person who picks up the book and maybe picking it up because they know me or because they're a rock and roll fan and they want to read what the rock and roll people picked. I'm doing that right off the bat. Look, guys, if you're not a horror fan, yeah, I get it. 9 out of 10 suck. Good in your mind, not in my mind necessarily, but I'm putting it out there. But even if they all suck, to get to that one great one, you know what? How many girlfriends do you go through before you get to the one that, you know, or boyfriends do you go through till you get the one you want, you know?
Yeah.
So even the ones that lead up to it are worth it.
All right, one more too is
That's true, yeah.
Now as horror movie fans, you know, we tend to cheer on the main character, you know, and even when they make those error judgments, you're like, come on, you know. So for me, for example, I'm a massive fan of Laurie Strode. The Halloween, her character. But for you, I mean, who is your favorite female actor and why?
Wow, it might be Laurie Strode, it might be Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm blessed that I lived through the classic Universal films, you know, and grew up just worshiping, you know, Lon Chaney's transformation into the Wolfman. But I've also loved everything current. And I got teenagers who I've hooked onto horror. So they won't watch a black and white film. No way. I mean, it's too boring. It's too slow. I try to watch Dracula with Bela Lugosi. Forget it. I get it. It's too, you know, it's too outdated and antiquated. But if you got to ask me, first of all, there's a big define that I've come to realize that there's monster movies and there's horror. And they blend and they overlap. But, you know, I grew up on monster movies. But now I just love horror. Come on. And I agree. You know, I don't think there's a more pronounced, more lovable, or more, you know, for a horror person, it's Jamie Lee Curtis's role, no doubt. And, you know, even in the more current transformations, I even like the in-between ones. You know, I loved H2. I loved all of those. You know?
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before I ask my question, I got to give props to your mom, because with my son, when he got old enough that I felt we can do horror movies, I used to make him watch horror movies, including Saw. I put him through Saw as a little kid, because that's so you have he was a teen, well, maybe preteen, you know. So
that's not too bad.
It's not too bad. But for me, I love horror movies that push your boundaries. Like there's some that are really, you're watching it, you're asking yourself, why am I still watching it? And not because it's bad, only because what you're seeing is pretty bad. There's going to be something in my question later on for this, but is there one movie out there that you saw once and you just felt like you will never see it again? It was good. It pushed all those boundaries.
Question. What a great question. I got to lead up to it. So first of all, there's elements of Saw in the new Batman. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet.
Oh, not yet.
Not yet.
I'll just leave that. And then when you watch it, it'll say, "Oh, Charles was right."
I'll be looking for that now.
And I was taking my kids to the movies since they were 3, and I remember the first movies were like Machete and Mama and The Orphan, and like, shame on me. I should have been, parent control things. But I'm not using the word jades, but it gets them so that stuff doesn't scare them. They were working in my haunted houses as kids. But there's a movie that I will not let them see. And what's the name of it? Is it The Girl Next Door? It's the Jack Ketchum book. You
oh my God.
You know what I'm talking about?
Both versions are horrible. There are 2 versions of that movie.
Right?
It's Jack Ketchum. Oh my God.
And Jose's like, "What is that movie, dude? You got to see it
Girl Next
because
Door?
You don't want to see it. You got to see it because you shouldn't see it." Yeah,
it's
It can't be as bad as Martyrs, right?
So because it's based on a true story. Yeah, it's bad. The book is bad. I'll let you guys know. There's 2 movies. I know that Catherine Keener was in one of them. I think that was the more recent one. And I can't remember the name of the other one. She was kind of a B actress, but those are good movies to bring up.
and I did a lot of conventions where I did something with Jack Ketchum, and he's just like this normal cool guy, and his writing was so demented. But I didn't think that was a book they would do an adaptation of. And watching it, I just walked away saying, "God, that's so disturbing."
Yeah. Like, I got goosebumps that you just said that. I swear to God, like, good. That's a good one.
I gotta watch it.
Yeah, you both. I'm gonna tell you to do both, but I gotta let you know which one to watch first. That great answer.
Right now, we're talking about this, guys. Before we move on any further, I want to plug this real quick. This is here, the book of top 10 horror list by Charles Rosenay. Everyone hold it up. Everybody hold it up. Yes. This is the book right here. If you're a horror fan, there's something in here for everybody, because like you mentioned too, I saw this, it ain't just horror like actors or people within that industry in this book. There's some offbeat people in here. I saw Dave Winfield is in this book. I'm a big baseball fan. I saw, of course, William Shatner. The Amazing Kreskin is in this book.
Right. So I got to tell you something that we haven't released yet.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to be talking about the paranormal conventions I do. But we did our first Paraconn last summer, and we're having another one this coming July. And don't tell anybody, but the Amazing Kreskin is one of our special guests.
Oh, we gotta go. We'll be there.
We're already planning on going. So
like 100 years old. He's great.
Yeah. Did you ever have the Milton Bradley game? Right? Did you ever own it, Charles?
I still have it.
Still have it? Oh no.
ESP.
ESP. Yeah.
Signed by him. I'm so amazed. You know that.
Yeah.
You know, when paranormal people talk about the paranormal, they talk about the Warrens. When magicians talk about magic, it's Houdini. But mentalists, whether they hate him, whether they love him, they all learned from him. He was the god of mentalism, the Amazing Kreskin. So it's just an honor to have him come. And he's going to be signing autographs at a table. And then we're going to have an after party at night where he's going to do 20 minutes of his stuff. Really exciting.
Oh, nice.
Really exciting. So you have found this out before the exhibit.
There we go. Right here, Horror Fiend TV. Thank you, sir. Another thing. Okay, so, all right, real quick, real story. Before I met you, Charles, I met you before. We worked on a few films with Douglas.
Scared Stiff.
Yes. So I went to Fright Haven before that, and I didn't know you at the time. I'm waiting in line, and I see this very boisterous character, all dressed up, just welcoming everybody into the place, telling these sick jokes, and it's fun, and it gets you pumped and excited. Later I come to find out that was you. That's Cryptmaster Chucky.
There you go.
What was your inspiration behind that character? Because I gotta say, like I said, it made an impact, because it definitely made the line, like the waiting in line, made it worth it. So yeah,
it made it fun, right?
Yeah.
So my goal was always to inject a little humor before the people got scared. Maybe put them in a sense of false security, that thinking, this is going to be corny. But that was always my goal. But the Cryptmaster Chucky character came about because growing up, there were always horror hosts in every market that would show the movies, like the Elviras of the world, Thackeray, Goulardi. And, I always thought, wow, man, that would be my dream to be on one of those shows, hosting and being corny and goofing and telling jokes. There was a horror convention that was trying to get its footing and said, they knew that I was MC. They knew I was in the horror. But would you like to come and be our DJ and MC the event and do everything else? And I said, well, yeah, if I could come in a character. And I came up with the Cryptmaster Chucky as the character back then. Didn't really get to use it. But this is kind of, that's the goal. That is to go that combination of I don't know what, Alice and Kiss and every rock and roll horror guy right there is what I was shooting for. But anything I do, whether it's the book, if it's involved in horror, that's the other name. It's Cryptmaster Chucky. Just because people who haven't seen me or don't know me, the imagination goes, "Who the heck's this Cryptmaster Chucky?"
You did a great job because I could see the passion within the performance, because it wasn't like somebody just working there. It felt like you were part of that. Like you lived there, and I think that was awesome.
I did live there.
Yeah, I didn't. But I found out later. Like, wait a minute. Okay, it makes sense.
I owned the place at the time. I've since no longer own it, but that'll always be in my blood. One of my dreams was always to have my own haunted house. And back, in the 2000s, when there really wasn't a world-class indoor haunted house in Connecticut, that's when we opened it in West Haven, and it was closed when there was sort of depression. And I went into the Halloween retail business, but I hated that. I hated retail. I hated selling stuff. And when I found that location in Stratford, I just jumped all over it. And I don't have time. I mean, I do so many things. How do I also run a haunted house? How am I there at 4 nights a week? It just, it was a little overwhelming.
It never showed, though. You always had 100% into that character.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you so much.
Well, and so you guys have brought up this Fright Haven. I've gone home and I've never been mentioned of this Fright Haven place. Rick saying Fright Haven now is the first time I heard out of his mouth. So, I mean, tell me a little bit about Fright Haven.
They're trying to keep you away from it.
Is that what it is?
Didn't take the hint. It's one of those haunted attractions, but unlike the trails and unlike like the hay rides, it's all indoors, which adds a creepy element to it. But what the great thing about it is, we wouldn't just open for the 6 weeks or 8 weeks of Halloween. We'd be open for Christmas. We'd be open a weekend in Valentine's. We'd be doing St. Patrick's Sleigh in March. I think they have upcoming. I love the name because I came up with it. For Easter, it's Rotten Tails Revenge. And then a summer version of it. So that was the great advantage of having an indoor haunted attraction. Is it would be indoors all year round. You could open. The snow doesn't affect it. The rain doesn't affect it. And it was always three different themes. So it might be the asylum, the old fashioned manor, and then the 3D haunt or the clowns. It changed themes through the years.
They're going to kill me. I'm about to go off script real quick. Have you come down to Orlando in the last at least 20 years? Well,
of course. It's the ultimate.
Right. Did you do Terror on Church Street?
That's my favorite haunted house.
Nice.
Oh my God.
That was the inspiration for me wanting to do it. Not Universal, but that.
Okay.
And you're telling me
when I came down here, I moved down here in 98. My cousin said, "Hey, I want to take you to this place. It's called Terror on Church Street." So I'm like, all right, cool. So, we get there. You got these people on the outside. They're in costumes. The costumes were fucking awesome. Then you get in there. And all the rooms are different themes. And this is coming where I am still fucking terrified of Freddy Krueger. Then you get into this one room and the lights go off and the Freddy Krueger theme song comes on. And I told my cousin, I swear to God, if Freddy Krueger comes out, I'm going to flip out. This door opens up and my inner girl came out because I screamed. I ran for the door. What was great was he knew I was so scared. He couldn't touch me. But he was this close with his hand on me. By the time you got to the end of it, where there's this tunnel that's spinning around,
Yeah, the vortex.
Death shows up there.
Yeah.
I walked out of there like having to suck my inhaler from how scared I was. So now that, because when you mentioned this Fright Haven, I'm like, oh my God, I'm curious.
Wow. Guys, I got to tell you, I went there before I was really, had any thoughts that I'd ever have a haunted house. And outside, he said outside as well as inside, there was this person who would blend into the walls. And you walk by and said, okay, this is just, part of the scenery. And all he would do is take one step forward and everyone in line would just, disperse. They were so scared. It was genius. I love that place. The best haunted house I was ever in my life was Terror on Church Street. No doubt.
I agree. I honestly freaking agree. I mean, granted, we were kids, but when they used to do the boat at Captain's Cove,
Cove,
yes, the pirate so that ship. One used to scare me.
Yeah,
but once I did Terror on Church Street, and even the second year, I took friends and the second time, I still walked out of there scared. Like I have never ever been scared in a haunted, and I've done the Universal.
Yeah.
The Halloween Horror Nights. I've done those.
Yeah.
Nothing has lived up to Terror on Church Street. I miss it. Yeah. I wish it was still open.
I think it's also you get to a certain point in life, like I'll walk through a haunted house and it could be the greatest scares on earth. And I'll go, oh, good job. I'll appreciate it, but not get scared. And people go, come on, you don't jump. And I think I equate that to, seeing sometimes you see a comedy and it's all right, jackass, and you're laughing out loud and you're ready to pee your pants. But other comedies, you sit there and go, oh gosh, that was funny, but you don't react, And I think that's how I am in haunted house. I'm reacting now as a producer, as someone, as an aficionado. But I never get scared. But I did get scared in church. No doubt about it. I got scared.
Real quick, I don't jump or get scared. I have a good time. But in Fright Haven, there's this one room, and it's so basic. It's a black room, and there's like the floor is see-through. Yes,
yes.
And now I suffer from anxiety. I almost literally caught a panic attack. My friends had to push me through. I was frozen. That's never happened to me in my life. I swear to you, I'm not making this up. I was frozen. I'm afraid of heights, and I just saw the unknown down there. I'm like, oh my God, am I gonna fall? That was good.
Amazing visual effect to the point that we're friends with all the other haunted attractions in Connecticut, haunted graveyard and all those, and they would come just to analyze that room because they loved it. They so impressed with it. And for a listener a viewer who has never seen it, it's literally a completely black room. There's a light effect that the floor looks like it goes down forever. Like if you step off this thin wood plank, you're going to plummet to your death. And there are people who will walk up to that room and look in it, and they won't go.
That was me.
Well, you're one of many.
Yes.
They want to leave the haunt, or they're frozen there, and now people are backing up. Come on, let's go. And people will not walk through.
Is that still there?
I don't think so. I think
okay, good. All right, good. Because we would have been screwed because I wouldn't have done it.
well, you should have seen the coffin he had. The first time I met Charles is we went to Fright Haven with Doug, Scare Stiff TV, and he had this coffin in the front. He goes, "Oh, I just got this. Do you want to get in?" I said,
"Yeah, I seen it. I saw that."
He's like, "Yeah, you get in it, and we just close it up, and it shakes and." And we see how long you can stay in there. I'm like, how long you getting in that? I mean, I'm sitting there like, and he's
I'm claustrophobic. I couldn't
do that. Yeah, it's a motion simulator ride. Actually, There's not a lot of them around, but we still have that there. You go in it, and it's the sounds of you being buried, taken on the road from the morgue, from the funeral home to the cemetery. The dirt, you hear it poured on you. You smell the smells of it.
That's cool.
It's pretty cool. Yeah,
that's cool.
He has it right in the front too. As soon as you walk in, it's like right there, so everybody can hear you scream.
Yeah. Now in the back, they added They added virtual, whatever it's called, things that you can go, and there's a gift shop now. So it's in the back now. But yeah, I was always proud of that coffin ride.
Yeah, because when we went to film that night, and you think a haunt is scary when there's actually people there. That haunt was scary when there's nobody there, because you're walking around and you're like, oh God, if something comes up, I got nowhere to run. And it was so dark because we're basically carrying the lights and having to plug them somewhere else in order to use them.
Yeah.
And there was one room where it's like a maze where basically it's like a tarp over you. So as you're walking down, the tarp keeps lower and lower and lower. I mean,
so you're practically crawling at the end.
Yes, and we had our equipment. Right.
The claustrophobic corridor.
Was there a dinosaur in there, or am I making that up?
Sure, there was.
Wait, I was what?
We had a serpent one year.
That's what it was.
An animatronic that jumped out at you.
So
yeah.
I say that because I saw it in one of Doug's films that was filmed there. I think it was Joe Nemchek's character. I think it was.
We did a few there.
There was a few. I may be confused, but I know I saw some reptile head or something.
I think they removed the claustrophobic room because of COVID. But what it was is it was like giant balloons, for lack of a better word, that went on about 10 feet, so that you had to crawl through it this way. And then when you thought you were safe, then all of a sudden it was over your head. And as you walked in, it's gradually lowered.
Oh, that was
great
crazy.
effect.
I got a question for you. Now, you've had a lot of movie roles. I know you recently posted one that you guys, I know the name of the movie because I seen it being advertised.
Yeah,
it's called the Bastard Son. If I'm correct.
Yes.
Now, the independent film industry is booming in Connecticut. I mean, people don't talk about it, but it is. And when we met, you were doing independent film for Scare Stiff TV, with Doug. Tiny's October 31st.
Yes.
But the question I always want to ask you is the fact that you owned a haunt. How did it feel actually making a horror movie inside this massive haunt? I mean,
I loved opening it up. There were other filmmakers. There was a music video. They're not the people now. They don't like doing that. Yeah. And my general manager at the time would always discourage. He says, "Don't let news cameras come in. Don't let people videotape." I'm on the other thought. My thought is we're great enough that even if someone sees a scare, they're not going to remember it when they walk through. But they were always like, "Don't give your secrets away. Don't give your tricks away." I'm the opposite. I want as much exposure as possible. I want to show people how great and how fun and how amazing it looks. And to Doug's credit, and we're talking about Douglas Palatamo.
Yes.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Well, he's going to kill us. Palatalo.
Don't worry, I'll edit
Doug.
Uh-oh.
Don't delete it.
Don't even edit it.
So it says Doug from Scared Stiff.
Yeah, there you go.
He's brilliant because he'll see a room and he'll see beyond the room. And what I think is already amazing lighting. And then I watch it afterwards or through his lens, and it's like, wow, brilliant. Another person, there's Eric Bloomquist, who's also a local filmmaker, and I had the pleasure of being in his last film, Night at the Eagle Inn, which has won a ton of awards. And he's the same way. What we see as just a plain hotel room, these guys have the vision, and Jose, you have the vision that you have that too, where you could turn the simple basic room into, wow, this is a room of future terrors, and that's a great talent. Doug definitely has that talent, as we've seen over and over again, and he did at least 2 films at Fright Haven. I think he did Halloween House also,
yes,
where I played Nemchek's henchman, his assistant.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know it was at the same location. I mean, the way he filmed it. But when he did Tiny's October 31st, I mean, it's classic.
Well, the one funny thing I got to tell the story is we filmed one night and it was late. It was like almost 2:00 in the morning. And there was a scene that we were filming where Charles' character was killed off. So Charles is laying on top of his desk.
On my desk.
He's on his desk, and oh my God, I forgot his name. Doug's friend,
Fred.
Fred was decorating stuff and writing a card, basically his death note. So he's putting it on Charles. as we look, Charles is passed out. He's literally sleeping.
That was my best acting in a scene because I had to be dead and I was asleep.
Sleeping.
I wake up. I got this sheet stapled to my head. Some blood has dripped down, and I'm like, "Where is everyone?" They went on to the next scene like an hour later.
Who are you?
Now to the magic hour. We're here to talk about Charles's book. It's a great book, and I gotta say, two questions I have. But first, whenever you see a top 10 list for horror, and the first thing you actually do is like, man, what movies on this book are gonna match my top 10 list? Always like a quick comparison. I mean, what do they have that I don't have? But I mean, the fact that you did this book, and when you were told me, I remember the conversation we were having that you said, "Yo, I'm going to do this book. I'm going to reach out to celebrities. I'm going to, do a top 10 horror list." I was so excited. I was like, "Man, who's he going to reach out to?" And as you're looking at this whole roster, I mean, like Joe said earlier, I mean, it's so many different type of people. But I mean, like, I'm not taking away from whoever I don't mention, but it's an impressive list. But the fact that you had Sybil Danning, who plays Sturba in Halloween 2. One of the most underrated horror movies franchise, because Halloween is amazing. And the fact that 6 of her top 10 were all werewolf movies, which is pretty ironic. Then you had Joe Dante, who directed Gremlins 1 and 2, among other things. And yes, Gremlins is a horror movie. It's a Christmas horror movie. It's a horror movie. And then you had Sharon Farrell, who played probably one of the freakiest horror movies of all time. It's Alive with those babies.
It's Alive.
I mean, so the question I want to ask you is like, what process did you go through as far as selecting these celebrities, and what was the overall concept that you put together in order to make this book?
So I think it's fascinating that you might get somebody who's in the horror field and their lists are just like you said, so many werewolf movies. Someone else that comes to mind is Boris Karloff's daughter, Sarah, who doesn't like horror movies and instead gave us, she said, Charles, I can't even watch my dad's movies, and instead gave me a list of the top things that scared her. So I think what we found is a lot of the ones that you expected, this is going to be an amazing list of nothing but maybe slasher films, tended to be science fictions or somebody else. You never knew what their choices were going to be. And it gave you a different outlook on some of these people who you thought would have no clue. Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees, just someone who pops up on top of it. He loves those, chiller theater type 50s sci-fi movies, like Thing from Outer Space, all these goofy ones, which I love them too. But like you mentioned off the camera, Eddie Deezen, who played Eugene in Grease. And,
I loved when I got to his part.
His list was phenomenal. In fact, I used his list, his and 2 others, Karen Black, the old actress who was in Trilogy of Terror. I would send out their lists to other celebrities as a template. Here's an example. And then I realized, wait, maybe I shouldn't be doing that because their lists are so good that maybe it's going to be intimidating for some of these celebrities to actually sit down and be that creative. So instead, I sent out, shorter lists with less words to make it easier. But, some people came through with just amazing lists and some others. But it's a great point is that any top 10 list, you're going to automatically say, well, whose matches mine? Who's come up with the ones that I come up with? And what we did is we kind of made it easier for everyone because in the back is that comprehensive index. So if you just want to look up Night of the Living Dead as an example, well, you can see that John Amplis, who was in Night of the Living Dead, of course, picked it. But the actor Corbin Burnson, the rock star Walter Egan, the singer Dean, you can just look through it. Vince Martell, the lead guitarist from Vanilla Fudge, Bill Moseley, Chop. So you go through and you see, well, oh, cool. Okay, these people all, went along with what I did. There's a movie that's in my top 10 list, and I didn't do a top 10 list here, that didn't make anybody's list. Before I tell you the title, it's a musical horror film. It was a combination of Faust, Dorian Gray, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and Phantom of the Opera. Do you guys know the movie I'm referring to?
A musical horror.
It's newer. It's a newer film.
Paul Williams. Yeah, it's a horror film that came out around the same time as Rocky Horror.
Oh no.
It's called Phantom of the Paradise. And it's this cult film that I get that look from everybody.
Sorry, my face is their expression.
Well, we love discovering new films there. Yes, we go back and watch them and we review them.
It would make my top 10, and nobody else picked it. But now I see why. No one's freaking heard of it.
We got to cover this though someday.
Yeah, we do. We got to do some classics.
So Charles, in everything you said, when you mentioned Corbin Burnson, I love that he put his own movie in his top 10.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned how everything was different, I enjoyed Elizabeth's likeness, her list on the things that I've learned in horror movies. When we watch all our movies, I tell these guys all the time, horror movies for me are my blueprint on how the fuck I'm going to get out of something. And everything that she listed off, I totally got. However, I mentioned earlier asking you what the movie that put you out of your comfort zone. So for me, it was The Human Centipede. That was the first movie that when I watched that one, I actually, my partner got up and left the room, couldn't even finish watching it. And it was when we got to the scene. So you interviewed Ashley C. Williams, and she had the unfortunate role of being the middle segment. And in the book, you mentioned if you saw it, you won't forget this movie.
Correct.
Yes.
So there was a scene in there which still I puked in my mouth and I had to hold it in and didn't get up. But when you interviewed her, did you ask her any questions what it was like to film this movie?
So it's of these 100 lists. Mind you, most of them came in through email. Most of them came in as written mail. Only a handful of people said, dude, I'm not writing this down. If you want, you can call me, kind of thing. So it wasn't necessary. I didn't interview her. I would have loved to have asked her some questions and interviewed her aside from that. That would have made the book double the size if I did my one question for all those people.
Because as I'm reading it, honestly, it was the most out of everybody. For me, it was the most randomest person I found in there, for the fact that this movie holds to be just the movie that actually, took me out of my zone. And just, she had the worst part in this, but okay.
If I did a top 5 list or a top 10 list of the movies that affected me the way Girl Next Door, that would be in the list. There's no doubt about it. Human Centipede, it's its own category. I'm glad I got her in there. And you mentioned Corbin Burnson listed his own movie. I didn't mind at all when any of the people did that. And so many people are always reluctant to do it because they don't want it to come off. I can't really list my own movie. I think Barry Williams lists that movie that he was in with Danny Bonaducci, which was on Sci-Fi. I forgot. It's probably two monsters battling each other.
He went to a whole string of sci-fi movies at one point. So,
but that's why I like Corbin's list, is because he said it. I'm going to include my own movie.
Yeah.
So why not? You did, and I saw the.
Was it The Dentist? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I saw The Dentist. I remember it. So I was like, shit, kudos, good for you for putting your own movie in there, because anybody who does horror movies, you're basically putting your footprint in horror movies. So take ownership of the movie that you did.
Yeah, he also has a credit for a film called Dead Air, which
Yeah.
Bill Moseley was in, and I think Corbin might have bankrolled that movie. It didn't do that great, but it's out there. So I don't know if he put it on his list, but he should have. He might have been too modest to put that one in. But yeah, The Dentist. That's
That was a good one.
real quick before Rick goes, there was one movie I was so happy I seen on a lot of people's lists, and that was Willard.
Oh, I love Willard.
Willard is so good. It's one of those movies that people pass up. That movie, for its time, I feel like it was way ahead of its time. To make a simple concept of a boy talking to a rat.
Well, I mean, Ben came first, though.
yeah.
But it was
first, and the actor.
What? It is Ben and then Willard.
You're right.
It was.
And Willard. Yeah.
I know. I'm not.
Oh no, it's good. That's good, but it's still great.
This actor who is a character actor who a lot of people may not know, Michael Dante, was in Willard, and I think he might have. I hope he listed himself.
He did. I think he did.
Good. Yeah, you'd never be shy about that. Always.
And didn't Willard get remade with?
It did with the actor,
Chris Van Glover.
Yes. Which was good too. It was very good too.
That was a good one too.
That was a good one.
But but the original Ben wasn't remade, but Willard was.
Was.
Yeah.
Yes. I think Ben just kind of was left alone. Ben, I mean, there's some movies, thankfully, that nobody wants to remake because you just want to leave them as a standalone. How good they were.
I don't think a lot of people were into rats though. So I don't know.
Listen, I'm even to this day, it's on Amazon Prime. Like I'm scared of frogs.
Frogs.
I'm terrified of frogs. And there's a horror movie called Frogs.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah, that movie, like I was scared of frogs, and then I saw the movie Frogs, and that one and Arachnophobia, both of those.
Birds.
I'm okay with birds.
Yeah, birds. Yeah,
I'm okay with birds. But crows, no frog. Oh, then you shouldn't have been outside. I had a murder of crows outside earlier today, and I could have sworn that as I'm doing stuff, they're going, So, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Charles. This is what happens when we all talk.
Well, let's jump back onto your book, Charles. One thing I did really enjoy about this list, it ain't just top 10 lists of people's favorites. Yeah. Some people, like you mentioned earlier, they went above and beyond and try and give their own list. Bill Moseley did his list of like favorite movie scenes, which I think you mentioned it too in the book, where he put a lot of his scenes in there, which was pretty funny. But one that I really loved that was different. It was the top 10 Mondo Bizarro horror movie closing credits theme songs. I'm a big music guy. Let me tell you, Pet Sematary was on there. Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh, great.
How memorable was that? The Monster Squad. You had mentioned Fred Decker, the Rick Rubin of horror cinema you had mentioned in the book.
Wow.
And so true.
No, I loved when they went out of the box because it's, most of the people obviously give their favorite horror movies. Yeah. But, Fred Schneider, who's the lead singer of the B-52s, so his list was jaw-dropping bad movies, bad lines from those movies.
Exactly. Yeah, that's Willem Shatner had like two different type of lists on his.
Well,
his piece.
I'll tell you about that in a second, but the other one was, we mentioned Jack Ketchum, man, and he should rest in peace. But his list was also a little out of the box. It was his top 10 most memorable nude scenes in horror movies. So you know where his mind was at.
You know where that's going.
Halloween must have been on there.
My Bloody Valentine, the remake 3D.
I'd have to look. William Shatner. I think if you have to put someone in top billing in this book, yes. I think it has to be Shatner. Yeah. And when I got his list, and I thought, my gosh, I'm going to write an intro for him like I do everybody else. And I'm writing and I'm seeing, look at Outer Limits, Twilight Zones, more than one Twilight Zone, this, that. He was in so many genre things. And I thought, well, I'm going to throw in a top 10 list of horror stuff that Shatner's done.
Good call. Yes.
That he deserved 2 chapters.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So thank you.
I enjoyed that section a lot. Yeah. Like, who doesn't remember the Twilight Zone? That oh
dude,
my god,
I love it. I like the John Lithgow in the movie version. However,
but this
Shatner's, yeah. I mean, oh yeah. I loved watching the old Twilight Zone episodes, and when you got to that episode on on reruns, you're like, yay.
When I saw that as a kid, I'm a big comic book fan, as you can see. My brother always told me that was the Green Goblin that was on the plane. So as a kid, I'm thinking, oh my god, that's the Green Goblin. So that always resonates with me, even to this
Well,
day.
I hate flying, so that
me
movie
too.
That movie just adds to my anxiety.
So that's such a great scene. Yeah.
I gotta ask Charles one thing. Since you mentioned William Shatner, have you seen A Christmas Horror Story yet?
No.
You have to watch it because he is great in that movie.
Dangerous Dan.
Dangerous Dan.
You have to watch it. A Christmas Horror Story.
Oh, I sure will. He's not that great in. Is it Empire of the Ants? There's one that he's in. I forgot.
I think it is Empire of the Ants.
Yeah. But he's also, there's another Twilight Zone that he's in where he's sitting at the diner and he's feeding the jukebox. He's just feeding it over and over. And I don't remember, is it a jukebox or is giving fortunes or something? There's another one, but he just.
I think it's Fortunes.
Yeah, is that what it is? Fortunes.
I think it's Fortunes.
Right. And he's out of control. He's over the top in that one.
But that's the thing. Yeah, he hams it up.
I always did. And that's how he acts his scenes.
Yeah, recently I did a podcast from somebody who wanted me as an actor and wanted my thoughts and why am I different and blah 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 blah. And my thing was I try to go over the top, and I've done that more and more with Doug's films. I think that if you're in a film and it's either a horror film or a comedy or something where you need a colorful, louder character than normal, a director can calm you down if you're too over the top. But if you don't have enough personality and you're not exuding like perhaps you should be, I don't know if the director can extrapolate that as well. That's the advice I give is freaking go for it. Be as out there and as ridiculous. Yeah. I did a film for Michelle Plunkett. I don't know if you've ever worked with her.
I know who she is.
Yeah, and I had to play a psychotic morgue operator. And I get on the phone and I'm like, I mean, I just go beyond duties. And I had so much fun with it. And, so if that makes the cut, I'm glad. If they say you got to calm it down, I can calm it down. So I DJ, so I'll compare to something interesting. If I DJ a wedding, I go in with the tux. I'm very classy. I say to them, if you want it to be a little more fun and a little more personality, you're hiring the right person for it. Yeah. But if you need it to be sedate and professional and formal, I'll do that too. I think that most wedding DJs can't elevate to the high personality thing, but a high personality person can calm it down.
Calm it down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good call. Yeah, good point.
In Fright Haven, and Doug told you, all right, you got to go out there and basically meet up with all these people who are trying to shut you down.
Yeah.
So you're over there in pure character. I'm sitting there like, wow, Charles is really getting into this. And then you had that one guy in the front with the picket sign.
Dave Gallo. He
kept trying to hit you.
That prick actually hit me with the sign. That was his goal. I'm glad you mentioned that. The first thing I ever went out for was a film called A Gun for Jennifer. And if you go to IMDb, I have a credit for this film, even though they didn't cast me. I don't get it. And they said, can you get angry? And I go, yeah. I could not really emote anger in my first ever audition for a film. And I was I kicked myself like, how can I not be angry? And I'm not an angry guy. And so that was going really out of my box. I could be silly. I could be a horror guy, but getting actually angry at a crowd or at a person was really a challenge for me. And I thought that scene, he got the best out of me. Yeah. And also in a film called The Zombie Chronicles, where I get shot in the head in my scene, and I'm like almost crying when I'm talking to this other guy. And I thought that he got the best of my acting in both of those projects. I've had the honor of being killed in a lot of films.
Yes.
That one was a gunshot. One movie called Pink Eye, which when I was watching the rushes and I was seeing, as it was going along, I'm thinking this is going to be a masterpiece. There was one scene where he has a girl sitting, I think it was in a bathroom or in a shower with hundreds of needles, and she's like psychotic, and the lighting in that, and it was just so amazing. And then when the film came out, it was like, oh boy, how did that not translate to film as it should have? And there was a scene where I'm a patient at an asylum in this film, and they go, just walk in the background, and I'm always trying to do my thinking out of the box, and so instead of walking forward, I walked backwards, slow motion. Nice. And they didn't see me do it while they were filming it, but when they watched it back, they go, oh my God, this guy's a lunatic. And I said, thank you.
That's exactly what I want.
That's what I was trying to achieve, and it was just, it was really successful. I hope it made the final cut. I don't remember, but I try to jump out of a room and kill the lead, the main actor, and he gets me back with a what's it called? You open a car door with with the hook. What's it called?
A crowbar.
Crowbar. Thank you. Ding ding ding. Crowbar. He has a crowbar through my neck. Through my neck. So you see it this way, and then you see it here, and then you see it here, and me on the ground. And in the photos that they took of me laying on the ground with the crowbar and the blood, unbelievable. I said, yeah, I'm going to use this as my promo shot forever. And then the film came out, and you see him go like this, and I fall, and it lost all of what it was supposed to be. So that, so as much as there's great things that I'm happy about, and probably all of Doug's things, I can't find fault in any of those roles. This was the one that should have been really big. And the fact that you guys never heard of Pink Eye as a movie, have you? No, right?
No.
Is a perfect example of something that could have been a great, one of these slasher movies with asylums and nuts and all that, and wasn't because of the way it was either edited or the final result.
Right, yeah, I understand. Well, we saw you in action, being Jose, as you know him, and it was a delight, man. You had so much fun with it, and it just made everything that much better. So awesome job on that.
Father, do you think we'll go to hell? For killing? Especially now.
Just, God has nothing to do with this. And if we were to go to hell, it can't be much worse than this.
Forgive me, Father.
All right, horror fiends. We're talking about Charles's book. What can this video be without a top 10 of our own? We're going to start with Cryptmaster Chucky himself here. Charles.
I have to say before I give you my list that I didn't put my list in this book. What I put in is my top 10 favorite roles that I've
seen that.
Which was partially ego. I figure if I'm going to put out a book, I'm going to let people know what I've been in, but also because I thought that my horror list changes all the time.
That's true.
People say, what's your favorite Beatles song? If I put that in print or in an interview, 2 weeks later, I'm going to say, why did I say that? I like this better. So it changes with me. Yeah. But I'm going to run down the 10 to 1 in my brain as of now. Mind you, as much as I love Halloween, Chucky, Freddy, all the franchise, I didn't include any of those because I can't include one without another. So that would have taken up too many of my lists. So I'm going to go with more one-offs. Carrie, the original Carrie, A Quiet Place, The Shining, When a Stranger Calls, because of its intro.
Mhm.
House
Yeah.
on Haunted Hill, Vincent
Ooh.
Price, because of one scene of that old witch zipping across that room. The Wait Until Dark, the only movie that ever gave me nightmares, with Audrey Hepburn and Alan Arkin, which may or may not be a horror movie.
It's a horror movie.
Thank you. Phantom of the Paradise, which we mentioned earlier. Sixth Sense, because
Oh, yeah. That's a good
it had
point.
one of the greatest switches, plots, twists, and as everyone knows, the switch doesn't have the impact it did. But seeing in the theater then and just jaw dropping for me. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, and The Exorcist. Number one.
Ooh.
That's on a
Nice.
lot of people's list. I noticed in the book.
Yes.
A lot of people
Yes.
shouted that out.
All right. So I'm going to cheat a little bit because if this was really hard to do.
It's hard.
So I'm going to give a couple honorable mentions before I give my top 10. Y'all should have done it yourself. So
I got mine.
Oh, my honorable mentions: Carrie, American Psycho, Cloverfield, You're Next, An American Werewolf in London, The Descent, Rosemary's Baby, Pan's Labyrinth, and this one hurt me for not putting in my top 10, was The Craft. So now my top 10. 10, A Nightmare on Elm Street. 9, The Strangers. 8, Donnie Darko. 7, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Y'all should have an old movie in your list. If you don't have an old movie in your list, then you guys suck. 7, Scream. 6, The Omen. 5, Jaws. Wait, I went off order.
No.
Anyway.
If somebody
All right.
would have done that, it would be Joe.
So I know, of course. So I'll get to my top 3: Alien, Halloween, The Exorcist. Exorcist is always going to be.
That's the
number
one film I've seen it. I think a couple times, but I just can't watch it again, man. Even
You
to
need
this day, it scares me.
the director's cut.
No,
with
it's
the
I know
extra
it's an
stuff
excellent
that
movie, yeah.
that they didn't have in the original one. Just added more to it. Yeah, Exorcist is number 1.
All right. So for me here, my honorable mentions. Now, for me, off the bat, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, I'm an '80s kid, so a lot of this stuff ain't the best movies I've ever seen in my life, but the movies that mean the most to me. So that's why I'm gonna do my top 10. So my quickly mentions that didn't make the list: The Evil Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, George Romero's Martin, The Hills Have Eyes, and again, I'm a big Romero fan, so you're gonna see a lot of that. Day of the Dead. Those are my honorable mentions. Now let's go here. Number 10. This is gonna be probably the newest movie on this list. Probably, it's The Divide. Have any of you guys heard of the Divide?
No.
No, I haven't watched it yet. I know what it is though.
All right, it's a French flick. Well, it's American, but it's by a French director who did Frontiers. Please, guys, if you get a chance, watch the film. So number 9, The Devil's Rejects. 8, The Evil Dead 2, because that's the introduction of Ash, in my opinion. I have to have it on here. 7 is Creepshow, the original Creepshow, Stephen King, the writer, George Romero once again directing. 6, The Fog, the atmosphere in The Fog, unmatched. Aliens, not Alien, Aliens is my number 5. 4 is The Thing. 3, Halloween. 2, Jaws, and number 1, George A. Romero's not Night, Dawn of the Dead. My favorite movie, horror movie of all time.
Mine's gonna be fun. Honorable mentions: Nightmare on Elm Street. That's about it. So, so number 10, John Carpenter's The Fog. Number 9, John Carpenter's The Thing. Number 8, Grave Encounters. Number 7, Train to Busan.
Good
Number
call.
6, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. Number 5, because I've hyped this film ever since it came out, Incident in the Ghostland.
Wow. Okay, number 5.
Number 4, Aliens.
Thank you. Oh, number 4. Oh, I'm 5. You're 4. Okay.
Number 3, Jaws. Number 2, for me, the greatest Korean horror flick, I Saw the Devil. Highly recommend that one.
Yeah.
And number 1, once again, John Carpenter, Halloween.
Halloween. It's a pioneer. It's like,
Yeah.
Well, and like listening to you guys list, like basically we all listed movies that would be in our top 10. So as a conglomerate, our top 10 lists are everything that we all love as far as horror.
I mean, John Carpenter. I mean, the guy's the man. I mean,
I know. I like. Trust me, it hurt me. Like, every time before we led up to doing this, Exorcist and Halloween kept going up and down, up and down. My other ones moved around, but Exorcist, especially when I wrote that paper from my psychology class, where I actually broke down that movie just as a horror, because it's, Halloween deals more with like somebody trying to kill you, whereas the Exorcist, you have the religion, versus the horror. And I ended up, like, my teacher gave me an A on that freaking paper because in that paper said that this was horror. This wasn't psychological. It wasn't like some of the stuff in Hereditary and things like that. Like, this was horror. This was the devil taking, and again, there's so many iconic scenes in that movie.
For me,
I
real
still
quick,
walking down those stairs. I keep replaying that in my head.
Music plays a big part in film for me. Music, even to this day, when a movie comes out and you watch it, and you're done watching it, it doesn't stick with you because there's no music, no theme to. Like, I got Dawn of the Dead as my number one. The music, the library of music in that is timeless. Then you got Jaws. Look at the theme in there. Halloween, The Thing, Aliens. James Horner did an amazing soundtrack for Aliens. Carpenter with The Fog, and I mentioned Halloween.
I love that you guys.
John Harrison did Creepshow. The Devil's Rejects had a soundtrack, great soundtrack, and The Divide. No one's seen it but me, unfortunately, but the music makes that film, in my opinion. So music is a big part for me when it comes to horror films.
For me, it's just the creativity, though. Creativity. I mean, The Fog. I mean, you take something simple as a fog,
and you mentioned no violence, no blood.
And you make such a great storyline with it.
There's
such a great storyline with it.
Well,
I threw Grave Encounters in there because here's a movie that's supposed to be a mock found footage, and it turned into great found footage. That, imagine if it had a big budget. I mean, it would have been great, but it has this. It stands on its own as one of the best.
A lot of films also base this stuff off of that film too, as far as the idea.
Well, and music that you guys mentioned, especially with The Fog, you would get
that. Oh my god,
dude! Get that dun dun.
Carpenter's a master.
Music is supposed to affect here. It's not here. Horror movies, the music affects your heart. It makes your heart race through the movie. So when you get that dun dun, it slows your own heartbeat down to that. You're like, oh God. And you hold your breath, but your heart actually holds its beat. So music in a horror movie, it affects the heart. And that's why it has that feeling on. That's why The Fog, that's when you guys both went, when you said The Fog, I got the dun dun, my heart stopped. You guys said it.
The piano in this, it's haunting. It's haunting.
When you said The Fog, the score hit me, and I'm like,
oh my god, so good.
And my heart stopped, and I thought of that. But that's what horror movies like. When you do the score is supposed to affect the heart, not the mind, but the heart. The score is the beat of your heart.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you wanna? Yeah, good.
Anything, Charles, about the list?
I just, you guys, cheated. You were able to do a precursor to it. You all did runners up, and half of your movies would have been in that.
Hey, we caught you off guard. You got to, because
we all. Here's the thing: we all know each other, so that's the funny part. Because I knew when I mentioned I had an honorable list that they were going to have one also, because all of us were going to have a hard time in it. But you yourself, though. In this interview, you said you didn't put your list together. So you put your list together now for us.
Correct.
So of course you would not have an honorable mention. We've had, a couple of weeks to lead up to put this list together for you.
All right. Gotcha.
All right. One quick question for you though.
Mm-hmm.
Charles, besides Doug, who's your favorite director?
You.
Oh, gee.
I haven't forgotten.
Was that the diplomatic answer?
That was a diplomatic.
That was a trick question right there.
And just for viewers who don't know who you're referring to, it's Douglas A. Plomatalo. We've given him enough plugs. My favorite director would be John Carpenter, no doubt.
I love John Carpenter.
Yes. Oh my God, John Carpenter. I would think, that's.
By the way, Junior, I forgot about the thing. That's how hard it was put together this list that I forgot to put the thing on my list.
If you look at all his early films, like again, going back to the music, they all had their own soundscape. Like you just hear a couple notes, you know what it was. You know what it is. You
could be in another
Halloween,
room and you
Halloween was done from beginning to end with a completely different soundtrack. I'm sure Charles knows this. They screened it early. It was horrible. People hated it. They went back and added that score. That's all they did. They didn't add no gore, no blood, nothing. They added the score.
Yeah, such a difference.
And that was it.
I mentioned the Beatles before, and people ask me my top 10 favorite rock and roll songs. And I'll say, okay, I'll give it to you, but I'm taking out the Beatles. And that's kind of what I did tonight. I took out Freddie and I took out Michael and I did that. And, it would be so hard. You mentioned Scream, and the new Scream was so great. And it's so hard for me, to leave those out. And as we're sitting here, I'm thinking when I do the sequel to this masterpiece that we're talking about, which is going to be the bride of top 10 horror lists. And I know I got to commit to my own horror list then. It's going to be a tough one because just sitting here, I'm thinking, wait, how can I have put this movie on when you guys are right? It should have been that movie. So
it's hard. No, it's hard. It does change. It does,
and shit, I am shameless enough to hope that when you write that book, that the Three Corners are going to be able to put their list in there.
You will. You're going to send me a sheet of paper, and I'll just include it in my copy as a sheet.
Oh, you fit in with the rest of us. All right.
Oh yeah, Charles is awesome.
Charles is the man.
I remember Charles when I got my book. In case you guys.
Oh, I remember that.
What did I write?
Charles signed it. No, you signed it, but he tells me because my name is Rick, obviously, and he goes to me, "The P is silent." And I'm like, huh? And then he's like, never mind. Later on, like, oh, Miss Mother Effer. I'm like, what I do?
That's great.
That's good. I saw you wrote in your book though that you're very good, quick ad-libber, and you're quick on you're quick with it. So
thank you.
When I read the book and I saw that, I got my own personal experience.
That's funny.
So yeah, Charles, what else you got going on? Why don't you let us know any of your other upcoming projects, where you're gonna be? Talk to us here.
The thing I've been doing for a long time, since actually 1998, is I produce Vampire Vacations to Transylvania. Now, with the world the way it is now, with the Ukraine and Eastern Europe, who knows? But we have every intention of going to do the tour that we've been doing every year since '98, except for the COVID years. And it's we call Dracula Tour, and the website is www.dractours.com. And I do a lot of paranormal. It's not my whole life, but just recently I've hooked up with Nick Grossman from the Ghost Lab, and him and I take people on different excursions. We go to haunted houses, we go to haunted places, and we do paranormal investigations together as the shaman and the showman. So he's the shaman, he's the real deal. He's clairvoyant, he's an exorcist, he's a medium, he's all the above. And I'm the showman. I talk to the people, and I talk like, guys, you may not believe this stuff, but here's what happens, and be prepared. So being a showman, it's easy to do that part of it. And with our combined efforts, what we started to do last year was Paraconn, which was the first ever paranormal convention in Connecticut. He says to me, Charles, you produce conventions anyway, Beatles, rock and roll, all this. You want to do a paranormal convention? And I didn't, not a second. I said, yes. Instantly. I knew it would be cool, but I only anticipated maybe 100 people a day, whatever. He said, no, watch, we'll do it 2 days. We'll get 200 people a day. Guys, we had 1,500 people. It sold out. So we have another one July 16th and 17th in Ansonia at the Ansonia Armory. And if folks want to check it out, it's Paraconn, Paraconn.org. And as we mentioned and revealed here for the first time, we're going to have the amazing Kreskin. We're going to have John Zaffis. We have just, if you know paranormal, the guest list is unbelievable, and 80 vendors selling just everything from, horror merch to paranormal stuff. So that's the thing that we're keying on for anyone who's listening in the Northeast should come join us for that. And then get the book. It's on Amazon. And if you want an autographed copy, I can sign it to any Ricks or anyone's out there. just go to the website, and I'd be more than happy to send out.
I just got that. I literally just got that joke. I literally
minutes ago, Joe.
I've been trying to figure it out until you just said
Silent E? What does that mean?
I totally just got it. Holy shit. Sorry.
That's funny.
Yeah, I was gonna ask him a question and you made me forget. Thank you,
sorry,
Joe.
I literally I heard it just now. I'm like, oh, that's what he was referring to. All right.
Well, any closing thoughts you want to ask, Charles? Any of you guys?
Guys, thank you for having me on.
Thank you.
No, we're not.
Yeah, no.
We're not quite at the wrap, but this has been not just informative, but fun. I really enjoyed being part of it. Thank you.
What did you think of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the new one?
I haven't seen the new one,
Okay.
but the guys who were in the original all called me and said, "Charles, you got to watch it. We're in it." And I go, "You're in it? They cast you in it again?" They go, "No, we're in a picture. We're in it."
The Photoshop picture.
One photo.
It was the worst part. It's a Photoshop picture.
It is.
What part was
Yeah,
it?
wait, because they ended up adding. You said her name in the beginning.
Oh, Marilyn Burns. Yeah.
Marilyn Burns. Yeah.
Yes, they took her out and put the new actress, a young version of her.
Did they
wow.
really
Yeah,
do
so-
that? I
Yes.
didn't catch
You
that.
didn't- Yes,
Mm.
that's
I
the
thought that
whole,
was
that's the
Marilyn
whole
Burns.
problem of that
Mm.
photo is that because if she was photoshopped with the originals around like the new like
All right,
the
I'm
replacement.
dropping my score.
I got real close with Alan Dasger, who played Jerry on the in the band, and also Grandpa John Dugan, and both guys are just hilarious and sweethearts. And they both said, "Yeah, I got to see the new one because it's carrying on the tradition." But everyone I've spoken to said it's not as great, so I haven't seen it yet. And I'm looking forward to it.
I didn't have it on my top 10, and actually, it's surprising it wasn't even on my honorable mention, and I'm surprised, but it didn't live up to. I love the original. My whole thing with the original one is that it was never really gory, and I think it holds the distinction of being a gory movie when it wasn't, and that when we reviewed it, I try to tell them the gore was all in your head,
Yeah.
and that was the brilliance of the directing.
But just the
Because-
setting, the atmosphere alone,
Yeah.
the house.
But I know, but everything that happened,
the sound,
everything that happened, you only that's what was brilliant about that movie. So everybody remembers it for being so gory, but it really truly wasn't. The gore was imagined in your own head of the things that the director didn't show you, but he showed you what happened before it, and you just filled in all those parts, which is what the brilliance of that movie is. And it didn't capture it. Sorry.
Awesome. Well, guys, any other final questions we got here?
No, like I said, I enjoyed the book. Go
Yeah.
get the book. Get the book. I mean, honestly, it
I'm
is
gonna
a
place a link.
combination.
I'm gonna place a link
Yeah,
in
no.
the video to the book, so if you want to order
It's
it,
a combination. Like I said, my favorite list was the list where on the things that I learned on how to survive. Like that's the best list in the movie. I mean, the book.
Can I tell you that almost didn't make the cut because the author isn't well known who wrote it. And I had, when I'm ready to go to print with the book, I had gotten in like 10 more lists of people like Gilbert Gottfried, a lot of really cool people. And I said, I'm going to pull that one out. And then I reread it. And I said, I don't care if the author, if she's not famous, this is too well written of a list. So I'm so glad you validated me including that in the first book. Thank you.
Nice.
Like literally before we started filming with you, as we're going back, I realized I didn't put that in my notes, and I had to sit there and like figure out how I'm going to add this in there, because that was one of my favorite lists in there. Was like I said, horror movies are a blueprint on how you're going to survive.
Yes, guys.
You are not going to survive any situations if you did not watch a horror movie to know how to get out of it. And that's what horror movies are for.
There's a lot of variety in it. It ain't just top 10 horror film. Like it's a lot of different variety within lists. And a variety, like I said before, on the actual contributors. He got Forrest Ackerman in here, the great Forey. Come on, like he's yes. This book here is definitely. If you're a horror fan, please
Have to get it.
gotta get it because there's
Thank
a lot
you.
of cool shit in there,
Thank
man.
you.
It's a lot of cool shit. Charles, please, thank you once again, sir, for coming on to this. There's 3 corners of horror. You're the 4th corner. Remember that. We're not gonna forget that. So
He
guys,
will be for Scream.
Yep,
It
we're
will
gonna.
be for Scream.
Here we go. So once again, July 16th, 17th in Ansonia, Paraconn, correct? Guys, if you can make it up, you're in the area, please show some love here.
It was an honor being the 4th corner of the 3 corners of horror, guys. Continue your great work on the air, and I'll look forward to being with you again soon.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. And with that being said, Charles said it. I am Ricky Grimes. We got Charles, Rosenay here. We got Joe and oh, you got it right there. Joe and JR, 3 corners of horror, Horror Fiend TV here on YouTube. Guys, thank you again for joining us. Come back for the next one. Charles will be back someday. You heard it here first. Thank you very much, guys. Stay scared.
Okay. Fuck you.
Yo, what was wrong with that guy?
The kid broke the rules. He's not getting paid.
Again, Tony. That's why you're the best. So, how'd we do? Good numbers?
Best day of the season.
Good shit.
Tomorrow's Halloween. It's gonna be even bigger. Wow. Do me a favor. Drop this off at the overnight vault. I don't want that kind of money sitting around here all night. You got a piece?
Nah.
How many times did I tell you don't carry that much loot around without a piece? Be careful tonight. It's mischief night. Make sure nothing happens to that money.
Gotcha, boss. Hey, they'd have to pry it out of my cold, dead hands.
Yeah, that's right. The money.